Most guides for Arc Raiders have a PvP backbone. Stitchers, Kettles, Il Toros, shooting solos in the back for quick kills. But for me, Arc are the real enemy. Queens, matriarchs, those big beasts dropping the best loot. Play your cards right, and matchmaking starts pairing you with co-op grinders who team up to drop them fast. Rats slip in sometimes, so you gotta stay alert. But for solo PvE, objectives rule your stash. Today, I'm gonna share my solo PvE stash strategy for max value and max function. Ready? Let's pack that backpack.
Tux going topside. Let's do this.
Banditos, what up? It's your boy Tux here with another Arc Raiders guide for the solo PvE player. So once your benches, scrappy are leveled, and you have your skill tree complete, and if you don't, I have that guide for you over here, so check that one out. It's also tailored for solo PvE gameplay. For a lot of solo PvE players, it's about taking down the big arc every time that map mod appears, which is actually pretty often. When I'm not killing Mega Arc, what I'm doing out there is replenishing my stash and preparing it for the next wave of fights. And playing this way, I've been able to accumulate a pretty healthy stash. I have over 11 million in coin. I have all of the legendary weapons I can dream of. And I have a bunch of parts on reserve. We'll talk about why. In addition, I have completed my expedition for next season. All of the stuff here that I saved are the blueprints that I want to carry over to next season. And by keeping a high value and high function efficient stash, I've been able to have enough space in my stash to offload things quickly to jump back into another fight. When the Queen and Matriarch arrives, want to load out, drop off, replenish, get right back in that fight, so you can just load up on those key parts. So I plan my stash strategy to be able to do 3 back-to-back fights without having to craft anything. So for Matriarch fights, as an example, I have 3 medium shields, for example, on the ready at all times. Otherwise, everything in my stash is serving a functional purpose, and the quantity is fit for a constant gameplay loop. And to help walk you through the process, I created this spreadsheet to show my typical loadout against the heavy arc especially, and for everything else, this is just tacked back. Basically the same concept though. Shows the items that I'm carrying, the parts required to craft those items, including the quantity, and the dependency, which are the other items in case you don't have the parts. For example, if you need to craft mechanical gun parts, the dependency would be metal and rubber. You have to have that in your inventory in order to craft that. Okay, but before we dig into this spreadsheet, what you're looking at here is my typical loadout when I go against one of the big arc. So your loadout is probably somewhat similar to this, and that's where this spreadsheet comes in. So A and B reflects the loadout that you just saw. Everything that's in column C and over are the things that you would want in your stash to ensure you're able to have those things. For example, for the MK3 Survivor Augment, you're gonna want advanced electrical components. You need at least 2 and 3 processors in order to craft just one of those. If you don't have advanced electrical components, then you're gonna need wires and electrical components in order to craft that. And then so on and so forth. You can take a screenshot of this if you'd like. But one of the reasons why I did this exercise is to pull out the parts that are in high demand. Like, what are the items that are overlapping? This list down here, this is high demand parts. These are the parts that I want to have a higher quantity of, or always represented in my inventory. The stash is a moving animal. Things are always in motion here. There's always an exercise of upcycling and recycling with your stash. The quantity of the raw materials you have is somewhat going to be based on the parts that you have in inventory. For example, right now I have 2 Raider hatch keys. So I'm currently comfortable with 4 sensors in my stash. This, along with the advanced electrical components, allows me to craft 1 more. And when I go to the trader, I can purchase 2 more using cred. And I have 5 here I can use seed to buy. So I have more than enough on backup in case things go wrong. So we have advanced arc power cells. So if you can look up here, the energy clips require advanced arc power cells. The surge shield rechargers, which I use a lot, also require advanced arc power cells. The other reason why advanced arc power cells are in high demand for this stash strategy is because I don't want to be farming arc power cells. They're not very valuable, so I don't want them to be taking up a slot space in my backpack when I'm out there. You can't buy these from a vendor and you can't craft these. However, you can get them by recycling an advanced arc power cell. In other words, they're also producing regular shield rechargers. So if we go to my stash, I find a minimum of 3 to 4 slots dedicated to the advanced arc power cells. So the next thing on the list are these little guys, these sensors. That's because you can't craft them, but you can buy 5 of them from Celeste once a day. If you're doing back-to-back boss fights between the mother and the matriarch and you're relying on your raider hatch key, that's not going to be enough. So you want to make sure you keep this category topped off in your stash. You don't want to overdo it, so I find 1 to 2 slots dedicated to sensors is more than enough. So the next thing on my list are simple gun parts. Probably the thing I'm farming for the most. You're going to need these to convert into medium, light, and heavy gun parts, which further convert into complex gun parts, which further convert into your legendary weapons. On top of that, you're going to need them to craft your anvil or whatever other primary weapon you're using, and to repair your weapons as well. Gun parts, for the most part, are constantly being used. Next on the list is Great Mullion. Great Mullion is the most pain in the ass thing in the inventory. Because you can't craft it, obviously it's a plant, the only way you can pick it up from the vendor is by spending seed with Celeste, but the quantity is capped at 10, which isn't shit. You want to keep your heal inventory topped off. In order to craft herbal bandages, you're going to need at least 5 Great Mullion to get a full stack. On top of that, this sterilized bandage and Vita shot, if you're also playing into that, require antiseptic, and antiseptic requires Great Mullion as a dependency along with chemicals. So the chemicals are the easy part. No matter what, if you're relying on just one healing method or all 3 like I like for the big arc, you're gonna need a lot of that Great Mullion. Now the good side is a lot of these things like herbal, sterilized, and Vita shots just drop in the open world. So a lot of my collection is just from pickups and I don't actually have to craft these. But I like to stay on top of my heal strategy, and Great Mullion is going to be a major component to that. More importantly, antiseptic. And then I want at least 2 slots dedicated to durable cloth. And I use it as I get it. So that's why I only have 2 Great Mullion here, because I'm constantly upcycling these things. I don't want them stagnant in my stash. What that translates to is antiseptic. I use the Great Mullion to craft antiseptic. And then I use the antiseptic to craft sterilized bandages or Vita shots. In the end, I have a healthy supply of heals that I can just snag out of my inventory. I have a lot of heals here, more than I can realistically use in a single day. But this is what happens when you're constantly upcycling your raw materials. This is peak stash. Now, if you don't want to hold that much inventory, just sell it or sell the raw material. But I'm happy with the amount of free stash space that I have, so I'm fine having that many reserves. Let's talk about batteries. The medium shield relies on batteries as well as arc circuitry. So you want to make sure you have at least 1 to 2 slots dedicated to the circuitry. The arc circuitry is also really easy to craft, so it's not a major emphasis. All you need is arc alloy. Notice that arc circuitry isn't on the list, but arc alloy is. So if I need circuitry, I can just lean on the arc alloy. Also, for arc motion cores, which we need for wolf packs, I can craft those simply by having arc alloy in my inventory. I have quite a bit dedicated to arc alloy. More than 5 slots dedicated to arc alloy isn't necessary, and same with the batteries. So the other thing that requires batteries are energy clips. They require 2 batteries and 1 advanced arc power cell. And you can't craft batteries, and you cannot craft advanced arc power cells. Celeste will sell you up to 10 batteries if you need to. A lot of the things I rely on, I just don't need to purchase from any of the vendors. Because I have so much coin, we got to spend it on something, right? So to manage that, I spend my coin on energy clips when I need to, and that prevents me from exhausting my batteries. Running out of batteries is a big pain in the ass, so managing the battery inventory is a lot easier that way. Now, wires. Super simple, wires. You don't need to overdo it in wires. They are dependent so that you can maintain your advanced electrical components. Advanced electrical components aren't super rare. However, you don't want to waste a backpack slot to something that you can easily craft. But to easily craft it, you need wires and electrical components, and those things are so basic you don't want to waste a backpack slot to those either, right? You can pick some up using Celeste if you need to. But I like to spend my seeds on Great Mullion when I can. So mostly it's coming from more high valued parts that I'm recycling. For example, the Exodus modules, if you recycle these, you're gonna get a magnet and processors. Now, I don't keep any magnets, but they give you the processors that are really important to craft the MK3 Survivor so that you can further break these down into wires and plastic, both which are very important. Plastic is also in high demand for this stash strategy. I'm always using adrenaline, and plastic is used a lot for the surge shield rechargers because you need electrical components. And to craft electrical components, you need rubber and plastic. So oil is very specific to the Wolfpack, explosive compound and arc motion cores. So the arc motion cores, we can craft just by having arc alloy. So easy peasy. But explosive compound requires crude explosives, which we can craft just by having chemicals, and oil, which we cannot craft. And none of the vendors sell it except for Celeste, which you can use some of your seed to pick it up. But again, I don't like to spend my seed on oil. So I like to reserve at least one slot for oil. And I'm always grabbing the explosive compound when I see it. So I got a lot of explosive compound in my stash. As you can see, I have 2 wolf packs in my loadout. And because I want to jump into back-to-back boss fights, I have extra wolf packs on reserve. Because the boss fights go so fast now, you need to make sure you get there fast. So adrenaline's really important, and I make sure I have some on reserves. So regarding an upcycle strategy, you don't want to necessarily upcycle all of your legendary components into legendary weapons. If we just look at the Aphelion as an example from a value perspective, the one I have here is in good shape. It's got 100 out of 100 durability, and I got the 2 mods that I prefer for this weapon. We have a sale price of $31,500. If I detach the mods, we're at $27,500. There are 3 parts required to craft that weapon. So we have the Matriarch Reactor valued at $13,000. And then we're going to need 3 complex gun parts at $9,000, 3 magnetic accelerators at $16,500. So if we add those things up, it's $38,500. So the parts come out to $7,000 more in coin value than the weapon at full durability with its mods. Obviously, there's even more of a gap if you take in the cost of the parts for the mod crafting too. An upcycling strategy, the more valuable weapon would be the Aphelion, simply because when you come across an extra vertical grip or you upcycle your mechanical and duct tape into a vertical grip, you can roll it into your Aphelion and stack up on that one slot in your stash space. Otherwise, the strategy is simple. You just want to maintain a healthy amount of backup components to be able to craft and replace lost weapons. When I run one, I actually take out the one with the lowest durability. So that way when I die, I'm losing the less valuable one. Where this one at 100 is 34,500. This one is at 25,000. I don't repair any of my legendary weapons. I don't feel like it's worth it. Seems expensive to me. But if we were to look at repairing it, it requires 2 magnetic accelerators and 1 complex gun part. Yes, it is saving me a core to repair this, but those parts are also really valuable, especially the complex gun parts. When it comes to the most valuable thing that I stick in my safe pocket, it's the complex gun part when I find it out there in the field. I'll actually put a complex gun part in my safe pocket over a blueprint, obviously if I have that blueprint already. But these complex gun parts are 3,000 a pop, and to craft one of them is a pain in the ass. It requires 2 of each type of gun part, and to craft gun parts requires 4 simple gun parts. That's a lot of materials that go into a complex gun part. So for me, these are very valuable. Point is, make sure you have a healthy amount. I don't typically need more than 3 here. So these are extras. Because these are more rare items, I go ahead and keep these in my inventory unless I absolutely have to sell them. For the advanced electricals, I'm comfortable having 2 full slots dedicated to those. For advanced mechanicals, you don't use these very often, so 1 slot is fine. And then for arc circuitry, 2. For arc motion cores, 2 to 3 slots is a comfortable place. So for explosive compound, You want 4 full slots because you're gonna need 18 explosive compound so that you can replenish 6 wolf packs after 1 boss cycle. As far as the variations in gun parts, it's good to have 1 stack of each type depending on the type of weapons you use. Now, I don't use medium and light gun parts, so I have them in case I need to craft one of the complex gun parts. Otherwise, I downcycle these to the simple gun parts. For the mod components, so 1 to 2 stash slots is fine. Basically, you're using this for the compensator 3. Otherwise, if I'm crafting something, it's going to be one of these green mods. And those only require duct tape and mechanical components. So it's good to have at least 1 slot dedicated to duct tape. I have 2 slots dedicated to processors. This is important, especially for the looting MK3 survivor. You want 2 because sometimes you'll have a bad day where you'll go down back to back. 4 to 5 for arc alloy. Batteries, we want lots of those. 1 slot to crude explosives. These are easy to craft, so you don't need to overdo it. The crude explosives can be upcycled into your explosive compound, but I'm also using it a lot for the secret grenades. These are amazing. Always upcycle your fabric into durable cloth. I don't keep any slots dedicated to fabric. You're gonna need at least 2 slots dedicated to electrical components. These are gonna go into your advanced electrical components, which goes into keys. And then also, if you need to craft a photoelectric cloak, then you're gonna need it for that too, which is a rare thing to have to do. You will always be using these for your surge shield rechargers. Mechanical components you're gonna be using all the time. So 1 to 2 slots. You get advanced mechanical components a lot from big arc drivers and whatnot. So I downcycle these to maintain my mechanical components. And if I need to, you can craft really easy with metal and rubber. But because we're always taking on big arc and it's easy to get those parts, I don't need to carry a bunch of metal and rubber. So I keep metal mostly for this heavy ammo, and the rubber I actually rarely use. So 2 slots is plenty. When I do use it, it's usually for simply the shield rechargers. For oil, I like to have at least 1 stack in case I get low on my compound. For wires, 1 stack is fine. And then for chemicals, you kind of want a lot. You don't want to run out of chemicals. Big pain in the ass to run out of chemicals. So a minimum of 3. Actually, I'm more comfortable with 5 slots here, but I had just used it. So I will be topping this off, and Scrappy is good at maintaining this for you. And the plastic, Scrappy actually has a hard time maintaining the plastic because I'm always crafting adrenaline and I'm always crafting the electrical components. So there's a lot of demand on plastic. I had a lot more boss cores recently than you see here. It just doesn't make sense to fill your stash space with the reactors. This is more than plenty. So just convert them into your currency, because even if a rat steals your weapons, by following this strategy, you're gonna have a stockpile that you can tap into. Last but not least, let's talk about keys. So I played in the objective. My objective is to kill the ultimate bosses, the ultimate badasses, which are gonna be the Matriarch and the Queen, the Bastions, the Rocketeers, all those dudes. Outside of that, my other objectives are the keys. I don't wanna waste stash space for keys. So when I'm not fighting bosses, I'm trying to spend my keys, which are in turn gonna get me the resources that I need here. What I'm gonna do now is actually just go and spend all of these keys and then kill some big arc. I hope my rundown on my stash strategy helps you. Let me know what you do different. Stay scrappy. I'll see you topside. Thank you for hanging out with me. If this one landed right, do me a favor. Smash that like, sub, and flip on notifications so you catch everything I'm cooking up next. Huge shout out to all you channel members and donors out there. You're the real MVPs, keeping Tux Nation rolling and growing stronger every day. If you're feeling the vibe, come join Tux's Players Club. Doors wide open for everyone. Kick it with hundreds of banditos powering this community and unlock a bunch of sweet perks, plus my raved about gamer music playlists. Perfect timing too. Fresh beat packs just dropped for the Bandito to the Bone level. We're talking regular waves of pure gaming music fire for our top supporters. Click join or the link in the description for the full scoop on everything. Seriously, jump in if it feels right. Can't wait to see you on the member side.
Wait, did we just become best friends?